Ladies and gentlemen, very, very good afternoon. Delighted to be here today. Uh, and even more delighted that I have one of the best leaders from our country on the global platform, Rajeev Menon, who now heads the Marriott hotels for Asia Pacific, other than Greater China, and someone who's been a dear friend and someone that I've looked up to for many, many years. Before I start with Rajiv, welcome. Um, we need to stop doing this virtually, Rajiv. We need to we need to do this more often physically. But I know the amount you travel is difficult for you to get to every place that you're invited to. But before we start, I just want to narrate a small anecdote. Um, Last month, I was there at the NYU Hotel Conference in New York. It's one of the oldest and probably one of the most mature hospitality conferences that take place. And one of the sessions was a CEO's panel um, where there were six CEOs on stage, six CEOs from all the biggest hotel companies, from Tony Capuano from the Marriott hotels, Chris Nassetta from Hilton. There was Accor, Ali Malou from IHG, Jeff Pelotti from Wyndham, Mark Hoplamazian from Hyatt. Six CEOs on the panel, and there was a lady interviewing them from CBS, I think. The panel was 45 minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, for 25 minutes of that panel, all the six CEOs were only talking about India and how India is the next big market for everyone. So I think it's taken us a long while to get where we have. We've been wanting to hear this for a very long time, but that's the reality that I saw when I was in New York. Um, but I think what we'll do now is we're going to ask the expert to talk about the sector. But before we get into India, Raj, can we talk a little bit about Asia? The region that you sort of look after. Give us a bit of an overview of what's happening in Asia in general.
Well, thank you, Mandeep. I hope you can hear me clearly. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to join you, first and foremost. And let me apologize that I'm not there in person. As Mandeep said, would love to have been there with Naveen and all my industry colleagues. Unfortunately, the schedule didn't allow me to get there in person. So I'm at least happy to be joining you virtually. Talking about Asia Pacific, for a number of years, I've been saying that if you look at our continent, 60% of world's population is here in Asia Pacific. And with some of the largest and fastest growing economies in the world being here in Asia, we are now, over the last few years, really seeing tremendous growth in the world of travel and hospitality. In fact, when you think about just, a few years ago, China became the number one outbound market for the world. India is fast going in that same direction. Southeast Asia, that has about 500 million people living in it. The intra-Asia travel story is truly tremendous. On the side of Marriott, we have been on a rapid growth trajectory over the last, I would say, at least 8 to 9 years, particularly since we acquired Starwood back at the end of 2016. To put it into perspective, start of 2017, in my world of Asia Pacific ex China, we had 250 open hotels, and we're going to close this year with 700 open hotels and another 400 in the pipeline. Clearly becoming the largest player in the region with some 22 countries across Asia Pacific ex China. And you start adding China to that equation, it is a whole continent of its own. So, from my perspective, Asia truly represents decades long growth story, uh, the emergence of middle class. Almost every day, people in Asia Pacific becoming millionaires, rapidly growing middle class. As I said, it's really fueling this desire to travel, and this is going to stay here for decades to come. And amongst that, India is truly shining. Thank you, Mandeep.
Thanks, amazing, Raj. But let's come to the home ground. Let's talk about India, where we are, and where most of the people in this room would be more interested in. Um, we're obviously leading the inventory charge, I think, in Asia, in India, with the growth that we are sort of seeing, and I can, we can sense that there's a lot of people betting on India. We've seen that happen in the past, but I'm seeing now with far more conviction that people are betting on India. So, talk us through this sort of momentum that India has gathered, and what's changing in your view.
Yeah, Mandeep, when you looked at India over the last 25 years, and particularly I've been very closely involved because I joined Marriott nearly 25 years ago and was sent back home to open the second hotel in Mumbai, and really been part of the Marriott story, but more importantly also part of the India story. Um, Investors and global professionals have been hot and cold on India. Marriott, on the other hand, has strategically always viewed India as a long term growth market and remained very committed to that growth story. What has changed in the last few years, in simple terms, is really three specific things. One, I give the government a lot of credit for making considerable amount of infrastructure investment. And as this infrastructure investment comes to life, you see the ability for people to travel, access places that were very difficult to get to. And that is what is allowing this considerable growth that we are seeing in secondary, tertiary markets, because I'm sure many of our colleagues in the room know number of airports that are coming online, the amount of road infrastructure that's being deployed every single day by the government, and so on and so forth. That's the first thing that's playing out. The second thing, as India transitions to being the third largest economy in the world in the next few years, you are seeing tremendous growth of middle class that I talked about from a broader Asia perspective. India is really at the forefront of it. And as people acquire wealth, they have discretionary income, and there is a real appetite to travel. In fact, globally, if you look at the credit card spends, people are more focused on spending on experiences and travel versus buying goods. And you then look at India, that's exactly what's playing out with the growth in economy, growth in rising income. All of that bodes really well for our industry from a long term perspective. And then finally, what you're starting to see is a little bit of the post COVID net effect that people decided to first kind of travel through their own backyard. You are seeing with the infrastructure investments, real rise in religious tourism, and this ability, and people, saying, "Yeah, I'm willing to go to all these different places within India, while I'm also happy traveling overseas." And those three factors are not something that's going to be short term trends. I generally believe they're here to stay. And India, in comparison to the rest of the world, has an incredible opportunity to add more infrastructure when it comes to travel and tourism assets. All you've got to do is just look at the numbers in terms of number of rooms in India, branded or otherwise, which are in few hundred thousand. Japan, with a population of 130 million, has 1.8 million hotel rooms. China is well north of 3.5 million hotel rooms. US is 5 million plus. So there is incredible opportunity for India to grow.
And which brings me to my next question, that what seems to be happening is that we are now chasing this brands, hotel companies, everyone's chasing this really exponential growth, and it's becoming a numbers game. And there was what you said, that today's traveler is looking for a more experiential travel experience when he goes to hotels. Um, how do you draw that balance when brands and hotels are sort of racing ahead to sort of grow inventory with the experience that the traveler must have inside their hotels?
So each company has to decide on their strategy, right? From our perspective at Marriott, we clearly believe that there is opportunity for growth in every segment within hospitality, particularly luxury through mid-scale, which is kind of where we are focused on. Now, when you look at even within that segment, there is lifestyle and classic brands. People tend to be more gravitating towards lifestyle brands depending on the generation, particularly Generation Z and millennials. So, what you can do is you can really create and deliver experiences through every segment. But there are always going to be certain segments, particularly luxury and lifestyle, that would be able to deliver a little higher, put a little higher focus on experiences, whereas certain brands like select service or mid scale become known or should be known for delivering consistent quality and service. So, from our perspective, when you think about brands like Ritz-Carlton or St. Regis, we see incredible opportunity, not only just city hotels, but more so in resorts, to deliver these incredible experiences. And we've got some beautiful hotels open and number of others that we're opening over the next few months or years to come. When you think about where India is going to be in a few years from now, and the growth in the secondary, tertiary, fourth tier cities, there is incredible opportunity in mid-scale. So when you think about our partnership with Fern through Series by Marriott, which was a global launch that we just did a few months ago, within that signing of that partnership, we doubled our presence from being in 42, 43 cities across the country to over 90 cities across the country. And again, when you think about the growth opportunity, for most folks, I remember back in 2007, 2008, opening a Courtyard in Ahmedabad or Bhopal or some of these secondary markets. For the folks in that market, the Courtyard by Marriott was the social hub of the city, was the Marriott of the city. So when you think today of a fourth tier city in India, a Fern or a Series by Marriott ends up becoming that social hub. And as that market then grows, people start to travel. That obviously there's opportunity to do a lot more. So there is opportunity across the board in every segment. It's how you focus in each of these segments and make sure that what you're offering the customer, the value proposition is very clear and it's delivered consistently.
Interesting that you should bring up Series by Marriott, because that was my next question. Raj, this tie-up with Concept Hospitality and the launch of Series by Marriott, which is a global brand, And for the first time, we've seen a global hotel company launch a global brand with its entry in India. So tell us a little, can you simplify the relationship now that you have with Concept Hospitality and a little bit about what the series by Marriott is going to be?
So, Mandeep, what we were looking at for some time was to enter into the mid scale space um, and grow through either existing brands or a new brand. And as we were talking to a number of partners around the world, uh, particularly in this space, we saw lots of smaller companies that had really established themselves with great reputation, great distribution in their respective markets, and were growing in that space. Were known for being able to deliver consistent quality and experience. So, from our perspective, we had launched our brands like City Express or Four Points Flex, which one calls as hard brands. But in other segments, we have brands that is luxury collection, autograph, tribute, which we call as soft brands or brands that really drive affiliation. We saw incredible opportunity to launch a soft brand in the mid-scale space, and Concept was the perfect partner. Now, what we did do was make a small equity investment in Concept Hospitality with a view that we would partner, and as this partnership comes together, we are going to be able to grow this brand exponentially across the country. And that's exactly what is playing out. So we have obviously signed the partnership. We've had a number of meetings with existing owners. We are slowly bringing them into the system. And there is an incredible opportunity and interest that we are seeing for growth in this space. So, in fact, I'm back in India on the 11th of August and meeting with a number of partners, and our partners at Concept have already told us that they are going to be either signed or signing number more deals because the interest levels are so high, particularly in this space of Fern as series by Marriott. Now, the idea is that series is like an extension. We would take the same brand into places like Indonesia or maybe Japan, but the company or the partner there could be different, right? And they are known for a very well established brand in that country with repute and delivering of consistent service, that we would partner with them and bring a global distribution strength and Marriott Bonvoy, which today has almost 250 million members globally, thereby giving them the opportunity to scale up and drive more growth.
So you had a record year last year, which was an all-time high for India. And then I met with Kiran very recently, and obviously he had higher numbers to deliver this year. And then he told me that in the first 6 months of the current calendar year, he's already done his budget for the year. That's the speed at which it's growing. And I said, so Kiran, you can take a holiday and go home now. And he said, no, I can't because Raj mange more. So, so I'm keen to understand very quickly, Raj, we're almost out of time, on where the growth. So you've got over 150 hotels, more than 30,000 keys today operational. I think another 112 with about 20,000 keys in the pipeline. That's a significant amount of hotels that are, either operational or coming soon. How do you see growth? Where is the growth going to come from in India? Because in a lot of the bigger markets, you're likely to get locked out now because all your brands are already there. Area of protection, etc., will start playing. So where do you see this growth now? How are you going to keep up with this pace?
Again, Mandeep, when we were signing 3,000 rooms a day, 3,000 rooms a year, the common belief was that we were growing at a better pace than anybody else, and there was little opportunity to do better. Last year, we signed 7,000 rooms, which was a high watermark. And again, the belief was this is as good as it gets. You heard from Kiran, we've already got pretty close to that number, and this excludes Series by Marriott. So when you start to bring that into play, the numbers are much, much, much higher. From my perspective, I just said this earlier. When you think about what's playing out in India, there are going to be hotel companies where we would have 500, 600,000 hotels across the country. There are some 750, call them councils or provinces across the country. There is tremendous opportunity. Some of the volume may come from mid-scale, but when you think about resorts, when you think about urban resorts, city hotels, convention-style hotels, the opportunity is immense. Next year, we will open the Marriott Marquis and the St. Regis in Delhi, which will have close to 70,000 square foot of meeting space. And the ballroom itself is 40,000 square feet of, pillarless ballroom. I think it's going to be game changer for the city and for the country. Today, India attracts very few global conferences. When you think about what we do just in Asia Pacific, we operate 40 to 45% of the large big box hotels. Rarely we are able to bring a major convention from one of the other big cities across to India. That hotel or complex opening next year will give us that opportunity. 2 weeks ago, I was with Tony and our leadership team in San Diego, where we opened a Gaylord Hotel, which was a 1,600 room hotel with some 200,000 square feet of meeting space. Countries like US do exceptionally well in this space. India, with its population base, with the growth that we're experiencing, all of this is going to come. It's a matter of time. So for me, any number you put out there is potentially achievable, because that's where I see India headed towards over the next few decades.
And I hope your words all come true. Raj, before we let you go, for all the work that you're doing for Marriott and for the years that you spend with Marriott, if Marriott decided to open a new hotel brand, let's say it's called RM's, for you on Rajeev Menon, what do you think will be the signature experience of that brand?
So you are very, very kind to think that way. That's not what, from my perspective, would ever happen. Mr. Marriott is a legend, and we are super proud to be growing the portfolio of brands that we have. For some reason, if one day RM shows up, then for me, something that I have been very passionate around from day one as a hotelier is really personalizing experiences. And if you think about our top customers today, which are Ambassador Marriott Bonvoy members, any of our hotels they stay in Asia Pacific, they get a personalized card from me. And to me, that is what I would want to do if tomorrow I owned a hotel, that every single guest that stayed with us got some kind of a personalized message and an amenity that really connects them to the name behind the hotel or the brand.
Thank you so much, Raj. You've been wonderful as always. Thank you so much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, Rajeev Menon.
You're very kind. Thanks so much.
Before I get down from the stage, I'm going to spend just a minute. I think we have probably a minute. In the last session, I saw or witnessed serious bashing of the IHM Pusa from where I have come. And so did Raj Menon for that matter. So did Mr. Kachru who's sitting here. So did Farad Jamal. And so did more than 80% of the leaders in this industry. And I want to set the perception right. Yes, the building is falling apart. And yet, we turn out the finest talent in the country from that very institute. And I can tell you, sir, for those of you who are not aware, we do digital marketing at the IHM Pusa. And they can do feasibility studies at the IHM Pusa. At the first Hope conference, we did a global competition of students, and we invited 5 hotel schools from across the world, gave them a project to do with an international jury, and who won? IHM Pusa. So please, ladies and gentlemen, the government needs to wake up and smell the coffee. That building does need to be changed. It's been a request and a desire of that college. Repeated attempts have been made to tell the government to give them a new campus. It's beyond the control of the principal or anybody else. It's the government who needs to wake up. This is, sadly, the premium institute in the country, and that is the state of affairs which Naveen mentioned. I feel sorry about that, but ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake, it still turns out the finest human capital we have in the country.